All right. At our last Visionaries meeting, we were excited to see the child and youth-centered branding presentation from Rotator. And while the branding itself is not the work, it is a visual representation of what we hope to accomplish in the pursuit of making Pierce County the best place for children and youth to grow up. We can't wait for you to see what Rotator, with the voice of children, youth, families, and community members in mind, has created to help move this message forward. And with that, I would like to introduce Adam with Rotator.
So about a year and a half ago, Rotator joined Greentrike on this amazing journey to make Pierce County the best place to grow up. But about 4 months ago, that initiative became very significant to me as we welcomed our first child into the world, Frankie June. So it's with much honor that I get to stand here today and show you the work that we've been doing. And I want to thank you because the fact that you're in this room today means that you are committed to extending yourselves with care, with intention, with empathy, and with love to make this county the best place for our daughter to grow up. That's where this all began, this desire to make where we live the best place to grow up for kids and youth. And that's a little bit open-ended, intentionally, because it's going to look a little different in Lakewood than it will, say, in Roy, or Tacoma, Puyallup, Sumner. It's going to look different for different families and cultures. So with that in mind, let's take a look at what we have. We've been talking about this initiative in a broad range of ways, and it's been a little bit nebulous. We've talked about one end of the spectrum, the low-hanging fruit, the play side, something as simple as putting out coloring materials in a corner in the office waiting room. And then we've talked about big impact stuff like policy change. And we've had some concrete examples to share on both ends of those spectrums. We have the macro and the micro. We have things like Leeds, England, demonstrating with great creativity, putting out trash bins full of sports equipment and play equipment every summer for kids to have and play at their leisure. And we've talked about big things like workplace policies that allow parents to take off work a little early to make sure they're there at their kids' games or able to pick them up. But what we haven't really been able to define super well is that middle ground and what's gluing those two ends of the spectrum together. And what we've talked about is it's really about a mindset. It's about taking intentional care to make space for kids, to make sure they feel welcome, to have children's-sized furniture available for them, to look for opportunities to enhance their lives and bring fun, learning, engagement, not as an afterthought, but as a forethought. And very aptly, one of our community leaders pointed out in one of our past meetings that we need a banner under which we can unite. And so that banner is going to be this visual identity. As Rachel said, this is not the work of making a child and youth center community, but it is a visual anchor, a tag, a reminder that when we see something happening and it has this stamp on it, it says, yes, this is part of what a child and youth center community is. Oh, and this too, and that over there is as well. And as those things become more visible and people who are unfamiliar with this movement start to see it take shape, it really fills out in their mind and they start to see ways that they can engage and get involved. So contributing to the formation of this visual identity, we've had 3 primary channels of influence. Obviously, the great work of Greentrike has helped us and been super insightful. So we've done gatherings and meetings with their leadership team. We were reading through past symposia, commentary, surveys, attendees explaining what they want the Child and Youth Center movement to look like. We were able to be a part of last year's symposium with some fun activities. And we also engaged with the Visionary team over the last few months and will continue to do so. And then kind of our beacon, one of the communities that has inspired us from the beginning is Leeds, England, who for the past decade plus has committed to being a child-friendly city. So we've had one-on-one conversations with one of their leaders, Andy Lloyd, both virtually and then in person last fall when he came and visited. And he led us through a convening with Community Minds together at the Art Museum of Tacoma. And we looked at some of their marketing materials. What are they putting out there? How are they describing themselves and their movement and what they're all about? And we also watched and tuned into his keynote speech at the Symposium a few years ago. And then, of course, we wanted to make sure we got children and youth voice included as well to inform how this brand would express itself. So we leaned on Greentrike and their connections to send out surveys asking children and youth at age-appropriate level questions. What does community look like to you? What does it mean to you? And then we were able to work directly with some teenagers in the Seeds of Peace youth before last year's symposium to fine-tune some of the activities we were doing, get their input, which was amazing and wonderful. And then Greentrike had presence at a number of summer events this past year at the Youth Town Hall, Summerfest, Proctor Arts Fest, Back to School Kickoff, engaging with families, engaging with kids and youth. We helped them come up with some clever ways to ask probing questions that isn't as boring as, say, standing with a clipboard, but really trying to engage in fun ways. And then we sent out some visual mood board surveys to youth as like a Pinterest style. And then for the little ones at the Children's Museum, we had place a sticker on your favorite color, your favorite style, shape, etc. So all of that has come together to form the visual identity. And some of the key takeaways from those learnings are that it needs to be drawable. There's an old adage that a good logo is so simple that a child could draw. And I couldn't think of a better reason to make this so simple that a child could draw. That seems to be critically important here. It needs to be ownable. And we mean that on several different levels. So for one, this is a county-wide initiative. Unlike Leeds, which is a city, this is county-wide, and we don't want, say, Puyallup to feel like it's a Tacoma initiative. You know, Tacoma people say, don't Seattle my Tacoma. Well, we've heard Puyallup people say, don't Tacoma my Puyallup. So we know that it's going to need to be owned by the particular communities, and not just cities, but also sectors as well, and maybe even neighborhoods, as micro as that. And it also needs to be ownable in the sense that it shouldn't feel enforced. It's not about enforcement, it's about enrollment. We want people to see it, feel captivated by it, and engage with it. And we all know that if someone is involved in the creation of something, whether that may be a meal or building a house, they are much more likely to feel a sense of pride and ownership and a desire to take care of it, to steward it, and to maintain it. It also needs to be actionable. We don't want it to be something that just becomes white noise where someone sees that, oh yeah, that's the thing that those people are doing that are, you know, Greentrike or whatever, and they've got it under control. I'm just going to go ahead and do my thing. We want it to evoke some kind of response, some kind of action. And lastly, it needs to be inexhaustible. This is a movement. It's not a seasonal campaign. It's something that needs to endure. So we've got to be able to look at it for years on end and not get tired of it. But it also needs to be able to evolve and take new forms and shapes as the need arises in different contexts. So, here we go. Child and youth-centered communities. Now, I have a little bit of a narrative to go along with this. I'll let the faces you see here settle in. Here's the core idea. Wherever you see a friendly CYC face, you know you're in a child and youth-centered space. We imagine every city, and not just city, neighborhoods, sectors, businesses, they could have their own unique identity. Each one will have their own personality, but they all play well with others. And they're able to tidy up for the more formal occasions. If it needs to be on letterhead of an amazing policy that's being passed, we could button it up with some nice typography. We see every face as an open canvas that allows each citizen to add their own unique expressions to the movement. Like this, or this, and even this. The possibilities really are endless. So, what might we create together? What I'm about to show you are just seedlings of ideas. None of it's promissory, it's just what we imagine, the ways that we imagine this will express itself out in the wild. And it's meant to be kindling for your ideas, because as you take ownership, back into your own circles of influence, it's going to take shape in different ways, and we hope that this serves just as an appetizer of inspiration. So here's an idea. What if we screen printed faces on white t-shirts and then took fabric markers and let kids and adults go wild? Or maybe even placing them in areas where people can add to them with chalk. We've recently come across this idea of pause and play. So we obviously have the destination spots where kids go to engage and play, but what's connecting them along the way? Can we create those opportunities as they go from one place to another to stop, engage, and feel like that too is part of their city? I'd love to see some uplifting messaging spread throughout our cities, reminding the kids that we see them, that we're for them, we're rooting for them. And then there are the more conventional ways too that can get the idea across. I will confess that I've sometimes turned my nose up at the family stickers on the cars. Being a dad now, I can totally get it, and having those faces on that car inspires me for sure. We want to show people the amazing things that are already being done. We know that this is not starting from scratch, that many of you have been committed to this work for years on end. We love this idea of language around kids these days because often that evokes this sentiment of negativity. What's going to come after that? Something bad, right? Well, no, we're showcasing the amazing things that they're doing. In this case, the world-class hot shop that kids get to engage with at Hilltop Artists. We want to make sure we help young people feel like they belong and are valued. Something as simple as a sticker in a window at your local business, something a little bit more festive like street banners, acknowledging the rhythms of the lives of these children, in this case, showcasing that we recognize it's summer break, go have fun, play, learn. And of course, remind ourselves of the importance of play. Play is going to look different in every community. There are many different opportunities depending on what place you're in Pierce County. We have this dream of having 1,000 ways to play in Pierce County. Maybe we could build that together. That could live as a website. Maybe every community has their own set of cards. Draw a card. What activity are we going to do today? Etc. So remember, we talked about this being all about a mindset. It's behaviors. It's changing culture. It's these things that we do intentionally, concrete but also abstracted. And we know that we need this banner under which everyone can unite to shift this culture. So this is our banner, and we're super excited. So let's create child and youth-centered communities in Pierce County.